Hey folks, how's it going? Hope everyone's doing alright. Let me just do the usual sound check. Okay, seems to be working. So, let's get back to work on the project. Just a quick recap, even though I don't really remember all that well what I did in the last episode. I just remember it ended not well. Although afterwards I was able to figure out the issue, so what we are doing is in the auth service we want to publish events so that other services know what things happened. In this case, we're interested in user account events. So when the user registers, when the user updates its account, in this case just the username, and when the user deletes its account. So we want to publish these events, and because this is a normal web application, we want to use the outbox pattern to ensure that we publish the events whenever we do the changes to the database. We're doing a bunch of things in EF core to detect these changes and then publish the events. And in the last stream, if I recall correctly, we started implementing the outbox publisher. So we created this outbox background service. I think from the stream to today, somewhere in between, I did some adjustments, clean up some things, but the logic is mostly the same. So let me just check in the database, the DB context. Over here, we are detecting events and adding those events to the DB context, saving changes. And when there are events, we're invoking this delegate to notify that there are new events with these IDs. So then we have something that's listening. So we have this outbox listener that is called when new messages arrive and exposes get stored message IDs so that we can act upon this. Then we have the outbox background service, which is a .NET Core background service that will run in the same application as the rest of the web stuff. And over here we are listening for the messages and using the outbox publisher, which will do the logic in this case, grabbing the message ID, removing the messages from the outbox, although inside the transaction, and then publish the information. So this is where in the last stream things went sideways, because we weren't being able to get the outbox message. So regarding that, if anyone is watching this stream that was watching the past one, so the problem was that in the configuration over here, I was using JSON-B, which is supposedly a more optimized type when we want to do queries over JSON in Postgres. But what happened was, because it's optimized, it apparently cleans up the JSON a bit, maybe reorders stuff, and in this case reordered to put the ID as the first property in the JSON event. But because we are using JSON.NET to serialize and deserialize stuff, including the type of the event, it was moving the type. Instead of being the first property, it was the second. And apparently JSON.NET requires the property to be the first, probably to be immediately able to see what it's going to deserialize. So that was the problem. So I could do some trickery, or instead of doing trickery, could just instead of JSONB, I use JSON. Apparently, ideally, JSONB is when we need to do queries that go inside the JSON. When we just all the time just grab the whole JSON, the JSON type is probably better. And in fact, that's the case. We are not doing some weird queries. We're just always getting the row. So it was just simple to change the type and fix the database to use this new column type. And now everything works. So just in case, let's get this running just to see. We want to see this outbox publisher. We want to see this publisher logging this. So close 5005 account. I know the certificate is self-signed. So does this exist? Indeed. So if we do test 1, save, let's see. Publishing messages. So outbox publisher, publishing messages. So it is fixed the problem that had in the last episode. It is fixed, and now every time we do this, if we do save again, it should be publish again somewhere. Maybe something went wrong. No, it's over here. Seems okay. Let me just check the time, do another one just to be safe. It's over here, ID 13, so it's incrementing the events, and it's the new one. So we fixed that part. Let me just restore this to the normal value. Okay, just in case, let's see where is the 14. And it's over here, 14, publish the event. All good. So the outbox publisher is ready. We just need to actually publish a message. For now, I think I'll just create an interface to publish the message, and then we fix this. I'll need to create, so add, in fact, just a class, no need for interface. So temp event buzz publisher, and over here we'll have public task publish async And I'll create another one. That gets events, so we can publish multiple events at the same time. Let me just copy this from over here. Okay, just a stub for now. Hello, Bruno. This is just a sub for now. Don't know if it's in this episode that we'll start creating the Kafka publisher. So just a sub for now for us to use over here. Okay, so eventually we'll create the actual publisher, which we'll create in a separate library because we will use it in multiple projects. But for now I created this stub, so we can continue. So this outbox publisher is working, and I always forget, but if anyone has questions of what I'm doing right now or what I was doing in the past stream or something else related to the series, feel free to interrupt. Okay, so this publisher just does this thing. Now, one thing we can create which might be useful is in case. So this is anytime there is a message, it is invoked. But if the server goes down and we didn't publish everything that's in the outbox, or maybe if some message doesn't get published for some reason, we should have a fallback that goes into in the outbox table and checks, okay, there are old messages here that weren't sent for some reason. Let me try again. So I'll create a class similar to this one that I'll call outbox fallback publisher. So ideally, when everything works as expected, everything will go through the outbox publisher. But because things don't always go as expected, we might need to do some checks to see if there are events pending. So what this fallback will basically poll the table from time to time, and so we'll get this. We'll use something like this. In this case, we don't need this. And let me just call the constructor. And in the, I need this part. And we'll need something similar to, this will be really similar to this one, but instead of doing for one message, will be done for a bunch of them. So let's see. I'll just copy paste, it's just easier. Okay, we need a database, correct. I should immediately have done this. So, but the logic will be similar. We want a transaction, and we want to go to the outbox message. But in this case, we want to grab a bunch of them. So we can do messages, and I'll come up with some logic. Let me know if you find something that makes not a lot of sense. So what I'm going to do is check the messages that were created at the time. I'll use etc because that's what I'm storing. And any messages that were etc now plus time span from seconds 30, no, minus. So my idea is, because we might read messages that were just written and the normal outbox publisher just didn't get there yet. So instead of us trying to publish them, we'll publish just messages that are old. So that are in the, if the message is in the outbox table for like 30 seconds, probably something went wrong and we should try again. So created that is lower than now. Got to change the name. Threshold. Okay, so grabbing all the messages that are older than 30 seconds. Remove range, setting them as deleted, and then messages, select event, something like this. And now we need to put something, we need a background service to handle this thing. So again, I'll just copy this thing, outbox, fallback, background service. Any of this making sense, or maybe there are other ideas? I'm all open for other ideas. This is the time to give the ideas so they'll appear in the series. So right now what we will do is, instead of this, it will be while not stopping token dot cancellation requested, it will continue. Just check one thing, I'm forgetting something. Yeah, not just where, but let's take 100 because of reasons. Don't want to be taking too much at a time. So get 100 messages. Now I'm thinking, I'm taking 100, but let's imagine there are like 200 in there. We shouldn't wait another 30 seconds to publish them. We could do it immediately. I mean, just before I forget, let me add something. Okay, so after publishing, let's delay for 30 seconds to not be always hammering the database. No need. Okay. And I'm doing, these values are being like, I don't have a reason, just seem like interesting, reasonable time slots. So if it's in the queue in the table for more than 30 seconds, it seems something went wrong. And for not being always smashing the database, 30 seconds, 1 minute might be a good time. At least like from checking the air. Right now, if we go, what can we do here? So let's just pull this extract method, call it publish batch sync, and we'll return it. If messages count I don't like to put variables in here, but let's keep it simple for now. This is weird. So I want to keep publishing messages while the batch is publishing things. This code is looking weird. It will probably work, but it's weird. Any ideas for improvements? Not really? Or it's not even clear what the hell I'm trying to do. So let's see if this is working. This is done. In fact, let me do something different here. Let's configure dependency injection for this stuff to work. Add singleton. I'll comment this for us to see just the fallback working. Okay, so this should be enough, hopefully. Let's restart the thing. See if we get errors because I forgot something. Yep, outbox fallback publisher. True story. What about now? Okay, now it's working. So let's see, let's put save, save, save. So whenever the publisher, the fallback publisher runs, we should see 3 events showing up. What? Wait, what? Something happened or not? Publish. No, not yet. No, there was a query, so probably the timeout, the threshold wasn't yet. Ah, now it worked. Okay, so publishing message batch. Published 1 through and 3. Okay, published all the messages. So it's working. The code is not as good looking, if that's the expression, as I wanted. This could probably be use some cleanup, but at least it's functional and it's not super complex. Let's just extract some constants. Yeah, let me do one thing. I don't think threshold is the correct word. So get the naming is always terrible. No ideas? Okay, max bus size looks okay. And get threshold I don't like. Maximum minimum. Okay, so we're calculating the minimum age. Minimum. And if there are messages, we publish. Okay. This one. Doesn't seem bad for now. So I think that's it for this part. For the outbox publisher, we have an outbox publisher, which does the normal stuff, and we have the outbox fallback publisher. So let's see. Let me just fix dependency injection stuff. So most of the time, this background service will do nothing. We'll just check if there are messages. There won't be, because most of the times they will be handled correctly. But when they are not handled correctly, this batches publishes what's missing, what's pending in batches. Looks okay. So I need to start working on the rest of. So let's see what we need to do now. I need to create the shared here, start implementing the parts to integrate with Kafka. Before integrating with Kafka, just create some interfaces. So create a new class library in here called Maybe I'll come up with a better name later, but good enough for now. .NET SLN add source. And right now I'll just include stuff directly, but in the future should add a this video. Add existing project. Oh, small. Should create a NuGet packages for this. So let's event. This will basically have the same type of interface as this. Create stuff. We'll expose two ways to publish events, one by one and another batched. So in the case of the outbox, fallback, blah. So basically the same as this. In the case of publishing many, we can just give it many, and the library can handle it. Just a folder here. And over here we'll wrap around Kafka library, which is Kafka.net. So it will be basically a wrapper around this, and we'll create. In fact, I'm calling it iEventBuzz, but I should call it iEvent Publisher. And we'll have an iEvent consumer or subscriber. Consumer or subscriber. Don't know. One of those. But this is to do. So basically over here we'll do just a wrapper with these interfaces on top of this thing. just to avoid writing a bunch of repeated code in all the places we'll have publishers and consumers. In this case, we will not have in a bunch of places because we are just using in the auth service and the group management, but hopefully somewhere in the future, in the series, we'll do more things. So, stuff. And now we can add a reference to that. Again, it shouldn't be a reference, should be a NuGet package, but do that later. And we can, over here, instead of having this, we can event publisher of what? That's something I was forgetting. We need to set up the events that we are actually sending, that we'll be actually sending, because these events are the ones that we have in the database. We probably shouldn't send those directly. So let me do one thing before. We'll create here in the new project. Better yet, let me go to the console. .NET new plus library. It will be events. So this is something that the other, because I'm doing it this way doesn't mean it's the best way, but I'll do it this way because it's easy. We'll put the events here, so any project that is interested in receiving those events can reference this project. In the future maybe a package, right now only a project, and has the events in there. And just in case you're wondering why I'm doing this in the console and not in Rider, and in fact I will do it again, is because in each solution, I have in each repository, I have a solution file. But just to make it easy to do things all together, I also have a solution file that has everything. So I'm doing things in the console. So the solution files for each repository is correct, and then I do here just to save some time. Add existing project. Okay, so over here we'll basically have something like this. Class. I'll just copy them because maybe they will be the same. Really? This is not right. Why didn't the refactor work? In fact, so I'm doing this because we'll share just the classes directly, and when we get to Kafka, we'll serialize things in JSON just to keep things simple. Normally, there are other types of serialization that are used. In Kafka, it seems that the most popular thing is Avro. Another thing that's common is protobuf. But because these episodes around event-driven integration are already too much, I have like 10 planned, so a lot. So I don't want to put even this on top because it's not as important in the broadest. The rest of the subject is not as important and should be kind of easier to explore in separate. But maybe in the future in the series I'll use it, but for now, just to keep it simple, I'll do it like this. So put the events in here, other places can reference them. So in the outbox, not here, infrastructure part. In the outbox publisher, we can have an add reference to the events, and we can event publisher of using it doesn't know this. Why does it need know this? Label auth events. What? What did I break right now? Really? Let's go back, go back. Standard stuff, sure. Not getting it. What is going on? Okay, now it exists, really? Using events. Okay, this is probably not. Okay. Now you're happy? Yay, don't know what was the problem. Event publisher. Just do one thing. So we can go. Okay. Now things make sense. Don't know what was the problem, but reasons. So now that what we miss is map the events from inside this application to the events that are shared. The reason why I'm not using the same, even though I could, is to make the split apparent that we need to really be careful when changing things on the events that we publish, because if we break some compatibilities, like an API. If we break a compatibility, our subscribers will fail. So that's why I'm decoupling things, even though I copy pasted like you saw. So I'll create some mapper, but I think I'll continue that later. It's boring stuff just to map things from one side to the other. So I'll probably continue that later. But the hardest part of this that I wanted to finish, the outbox publisher and all, that's done. So in the meantime, we started preparing the next episode, which will introduce Kafka and stuff. So I'll do the mapping stuff, the boring mapping stuff sometime. And eventually we'll get to actually playing with Kafka, which isn't very hard. Just needed a bit of taking a look at how things worked. But after that, it's not really hard to use it, at least in this play around. Using it in the infrastructure is another thing, but just using it in code, for basic stuff works well. So we'll probably start that in the next episode, in the next stream. Still have episodes to do in the meantime. But I think I'll wrap it up for today. No questions? Folks have been quiet for today, so. Okay, so I'll sign out. And hopefully see everyone again on next Friday if everything goes well. Yeah. See yous.